They laughed at him for being poor. But one waitress's simple act of kindness would change both their lives forever and reveal a billionaire in disguise. The morning started slow in the small-town diner. The air smelled of coffee and fried eggs, and the sound of old country music came softly from the radio behind the counter. Most of the people there were regulars, farmers, truck drivers, Kay and a few office workers, all sitting in their usual spots. They knew each other's names, stories, and habits. It was the kind of place where gossip traveled faster than the food came out of the kitchen. Mia, the waitress, moved quickly from one table to another. She was in her late 20s, with kind eyes and a tired smile that she wore like a habit. She had been working at the diner for almost 5 years. Ever since her mother got sick and the bills started piling up, it wasn't the kind of life she had dreamed of, but she always tried to stay cheerful. She knew most of the people who came in, and she knew their moods before they even ordered. That morning, a man had walked in quietly, without looking at anyone. His clothes were old and wrinkled, his beard messy, and his hair looked like it hadn't seen a brush in days. His shoes were worn down, almost torn. He moved slowly, like someone carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. He took a seat at the counter, his head down, and waited quietly. Some of the customers noticed him right away. One of them, a man named Greg, who always thought too highly of himself, leaned over to his friends and said, "Looks like we've got ourselves a hobo breakfast special." His friends laughed, not even bothering to hide it. Mia frowned a little. She had seen plenty of people down on their luck before. The town wasn't rich, not by a long shot, and she knew how life could change in a heartbeat. She grabbed her notepad and walked over to the counter with her usual smile. "Good morning," she said softly. "What can I get you today?" The man looked up for the first time. His eyes were tired but polite. "Just a coffee," he said quietly. After a small pause, he added, "And maybe one pancake, please." "Sure thing," she said kindly. She could tell from his voice that he wasn't used to asking for much. When she brought the plate, he thanked her as if she'd given him a feast. From the corner of the room, Greg's group was still laughing. One of them whispered loudly, "Bet he'll ask for ketchup packets to take home." They laughed again. Mia's jaw tightened, but she didn't say anything. She didn't like trouble, but something about the way they mocked the man made her heart hurt. The man ate slowly, savoring every bite. When Mia walked past, he gave her a small smile. "It's good," he said softly. She nodded, happy to see at least that small bit of peace on his face. When he finished, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a few crumpled dollar bills and coins. His hands trembled as he counted them, and Mia immediately realized he didn't have enough. He looked embarrassed, whispering, "I'm sorry. I thought I had more." Before he could say anything else, Mia quickly said, "It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's on the house." He looked at her, surprised. "I can come back later," he said. "I don't want charity." "It's okay," she said softly. "Just think of it as a refill on kindness. We all need one sometimes." From behind the counter, the manager, Mr. Lewis, gave Mia a hard look. He didn't like it when she gave away food. "Mia," he said sharply, "we're not running a charity here." "I know," she said quickly. "I'll pay for it myself." The man looked down again, clearly uncomfortable, but too tired to argue. He nodded slowly, whispering, "Thank you. That means more than you think." Just then, as he tried to lift his coffee mug, it slipped from his hand and crashed to the floor, breaking into pieces. The noise made everyone in the diner turn to look. Greg and his friends burst into laughter. "Guess he can't even hold a cup," one of them said loudly. Mia knelt down quickly to clean the mess. "It's fine," she said gently. "Happens to all of us." The man's face turned red, but Mia smiled at him anyway, pretending not to notice the laughter. "I'll get you another cup, okay?" He nodded, his voice low. "You're too kind," he said. "Most people don't even see me anymore." Her heart softened. "Well, I see you," she said simply, "and I hope today gets better for you." He smiled, a real smile this time, though it looked like it had been a long time since he'd used it. "You remind me that kindness still exists," he said quietly. She didn't know what to say to that. There was something about his voice, something honest and heavy, like he'd been through things he couldn't talk about. When he finally stood up to leave, he adjusted his coat, thanked her again, and walked out into the cold. The bell above the door jingled softly as it closed behind him. As soon as he was gone, Greg's group started talking again. "That guy's probably sleeping under a bridge somewhere," one of them said, "and she's over here acting like he's a prince." Mia turned away and started wiping the counter. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She just hoped the man would find a warm place to rest that night. A few minutes later, she was clearing the counter. She noticed a small piece of paper under the coffee cup she'd replaced. It was a note written in neat handwriting. "Thank you for your kindness. Someday, I'll repay it. You have no idea how much it means." She stared at it for a long time, then folded it carefully and slipped it into her apron pocket. The rest of the day went by slowly. The customers kept talking, laughing, and joking about what had happened, but Mia stayed quiet. Deep down, something about that man stayed with her, the sadness in his eyes. The way he spoke with quiet dignity, even when everyone else was laughing at him. When her shift ended, she sat in the empty booth near the window, sipping the last of the leftover coffee. Outside, the streetlights glowed faintly against the evening fog. She thought about how strange it was. One small act of kindness, one moment of standing up for someone everyone else ignored. It hadn't changed the world, but it had changed something in her. She didn't know that the man she'd helped was not who everyone thought he was. She didn't know that the same man would return soon, not in torn clothes, but in a suit worth more than the diner's monthly rent. She didn't know that her small kindness was about to bring the biggest surprise her little town had ever seen. That night, she locked up the diner and walked home under the quiet streetlights, unaware that her life had just begun to turn in a direction she could never have imagined. The next morning, the diner was busier than usual. People were talking louder than normal, and Mia could tell something was different. As she walked past one of the tables, she heard Greg and his friends laughing again. One of them held up his phone and said, "You guys have to see this." When Mia looked over, her heart dropped. On his phone screen was a video from yesterday, a shaky clip showing the man she had helped, spilling his coffee while everyone laughed. Someone must have filmed it and uploaded it online. The caption said, "Waitress feeds a bum for free. Welcome to small-town comedy." The people in the diner were watching it and laughing like it was entertainment. Mia felt her cheeks burn with anger and embarrassment. She wanted to grab the phone and delete the video, but it was already too late. It had been posted on social media, and people were commenting cruel things. "What a loser," one comment said. "That waitress should mind her own business," said another. She turned away, pretending she hadn't seen it. But the laughter around her kept echoing in her ears. The manager, Mr. Lewis, walked by and gave her a sharp look. "You see what happens when you play the hero?" he said under his breath. "Now people are making fun of this place." "I didn't do anything wrong," she said quietly. He sighed and shook his head. "You gave away food. That's against policy. And now we're getting unwanted attention. Next time, think before you try to be a saint." Mia bit her tongue and didn't argue. She just went back to wiping tables, trying to ignore the whispers and stares. By lunchtime, the video had spread even more. Teenagers came in laughing, pretending to drop cups on purpose, saying, "Oops, look at me, I'm the hobo." Her coworkers laughed too, not because they were mean people, but because no one wanted to be the next target of a joke. Mia felt smaller and smaller as the day went on. Later that afternoon, as the diner started to empty, she saw the man again. Evan walked slowly inside, wearing the same worn-out jacket. His eyes looked sadder this time, as if he already knew what had happened. The laughter stopped for a second, but then Greg muttered, "Round two." Evan didn't look at anyone. He walked straight to the counter and left a folded note. "I came to say thank you again," he said quietly. "And to pay what I owe," before Mia could stop him. He placed a few crumpled bills on the counter, far more than his meal had cost. "That's too much," Mia said. "You don't have to," but he shook his head. "You were kind when no one else was. I can't forget that." Then he smiled weakly and added, "I'll repay you someday, properly." And before anyone could respond, he turned and left. The room was silent for a few seconds. Then Greg said, "Yeah, right." Maybe he'll repay her with a coupon for soup. Everyone laughed again. Mia's hands were shaking. She wanted to scream at them, to tell them to stop acting like they were better than him. But she knew it would only make things worse. That night, when she got home, she sat on her bed scrolling through her phone. The video had already been shared hundreds of times. Strangers were arguing in the comments, some making fun, some saying Mia had done the right thing. A few people even called her an angel waitress, but she didn't feel like one. She just felt tired. For the next few days, things didn't get easier. Business slowed down because some customers didn't like the attention the diner was getting. The manager blamed Mia, saying, "You've made us a laughingstock." She almost quit that day. But something deep inside her told her to stay. Maybe hope. Maybe stubbornness. Then came the storm. The sky turned gray that weekend, and heavy rain hit the small town. Thunder rolled through the night, and by morning, several streets were flooded. The diner still opened because it never closed, no matter the weather. The lights flickered as Mia poured coffee for the few brave customers who had come in. The doorbell jingled, and everyone turned as a tall man in a long coat entered. He was soaked from the rain, but he carried himself differently. Confident, calm, and sharp. His shoes were polished, his hair neatly styled. Mia didn't recognize him at first. He walked straight to the counter, scanning the room. The whole diner went quiet. Even the sound of the rain outside seemed to fade. "Good afternoon," he said politely, his voice clear and deep. "Is Mia working today?" Everyone looked toward her. Mia froze, confused. "Yes," she said cautiously. "That's me." The man smiled. "Good. I was hoping to find you." Greg and his friends were whispering, trying to figure out who he was. The manager rushed over, suddenly full of fake charm. "Welcome, sir. Please, have a seat. Can I get you a menu? Coffee? Anything at all?" The man ignored him gently and kept his eyes on Mia. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked. She blinked, trying to place his face. And then, slowly, realization dawned. The eyes. They were the same kind, tired eyes she had seen before. Her lips parted. "Evan," he smiled slightly. "That's right." The room fell completely silent. Greg dropped his fork. The manager stared like he couldn't believe it. Evan looked completely different, clean-shaven, confident, wearing a suit that looked expensive. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a wallet. "I wanted to come back properly," he said, "and to say thank you again." The manager, trying to recover, stammered, "Of course, sir. We're glad to have you here. Can we offer you something to eat? On the house?" Evan looked at him calmly. "No, thank you. I've already eaten." Then he looked around the diner. "But I do have something to say." Every eye in the room was on him. "Last week I came here looking like a man with nothing," he began. "And most people here laughed at me. But one person didn't. One person treated me with kindness when I had nothing to offer." He turned toward Mia. "That person was you." Mia's heart pounded. She could barely speak. Evan continued. "I'm not a homeless man. My name is Evan Cole. I own several companies, including the tech firm that just opened in the next city." Gasps filled the room. The same people who had mocked him were now sitting up straighter. Pretending to smile, "I came here that day because I was tired of people pretending to be kind when they wanted something from me," he said. "So I decided to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing." His gaze swept across the diners. No one spoke. Even Greg looked pale. "Only one person in this place passed the test," he said. "And that's Mia. She showed kindness without asking for anything. That means more to me than any business deal I've ever made." The silence in the diner was heavy, broken only by the sound of rain outside. Then Evan reached into his wallet and placed a thick envelope on the counter. "For your kindness," he said, "and for reminding me that good people still exist." Mia tried to refuse, shaking her head. "You don't have to, I do," he said gently. "Because that day, you didn't just feed a man. You gave him back a little faith." Smiled, turned to leave, and before walking out, he added, "We'll talk soon. I have an idea I want to share with you." When the door closed behind him, the diner exploded with whispers. Greg's face was red, and the manager was already muttering, "Mia, why didn't you tell us you knew him?" I didn't, she said, still stunned, as the rain poured harder outside. Mia stood there behind the counter, holding back tears. Just days ago, everyone had laughed at her. Now they couldn't even look her in the eye. She didn't know what kind of idea Evan had in mind. But one thing she knew for sure, the man she helped had just changed her life forever. The next day, the whole town was talking about what had happened at the diner. People couldn't stop whispering about the mysterious rich man who had shown up out of nowhere, and turned out to be the same poor stranger they had laughed at. The gossip spread fast. By evening, everyone knew that the man's name was Evan Cole, a billionaire and founder of a famous tech company. Mia didn't even know what to think. She replayed the scene in her head over and over, the way Evan had looked at her, the way the whole diner had gone quiet, and how he had thanked her in front of everyone. It felt like something out of a movie, not real life. When she came to work that morning, everything felt strange. People who used to ignore her were suddenly smiling and greeting her warmly. Even Greg, who had made fun of Evan the most, tried to act friendly. "Hey, Mia," he said awkwardly. You, really did a nice thing the other day. Real classy of you." Mia just nodded. She didn't have the energy to argue or remind him how cruel he'd been. She had seen people change their attitude too quickly before Mr. Lewis. The manager was acting even more nervous than usual. He had cleaned the counter 3 times already, and he kept checking the front door. "Do you think he'll come back?" he asked Mia, trying to sound casual but failing. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe." He straightened his tie. "If he does, I'll make sure he gets the best service. We should have treated him better. You know, people like that can change a business overnight." Mia sighed quietly. It bothered her that now everyone cared about Evan only because he had money. No one had cared when he looked poor and tired. Around lunchtime, the sound of an expensive car engine stopped outside the diner. The doorbell jingled, and everyone turned to look. It was him. Evan walked in, wearing a dark gray suit and a smile that somehow made the entire room go silent again. The same people who had mocked him the first time now sat up straight. Pretending to be busy, Mia froze for a moment, then forced herself to move. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi, Mia," he said warmly. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," she said, feeling her heart race. Mr. Lewis rushed forward, almost tripping over himself. "Mr. Cole." "Welcome, sir. Please, have a seat anywhere you like. Would you care for a coffee? On the house, of course?" Evan smiled politely. "Thank you, but I'll just take water." Mia brought him a glass, and the manager hovered nearby, nervous and smiling too much. The other customers tried to act normal, but every eye was secretly watching. Evan turned to Mia. "Do you have a few minutes?" She nodded. He stood and faced the whole diner. "Actually, I'd like to say something to everyone." The chatter died instantly. Even the sound of the coffee machine stopped. Evan took a breath and said, "A few days ago, I came into this place looking like a man who had lost everything. I wasn't testing anyone for fun or trying to embarrass anyone. I just wanted to see something real. I wanted to see if kindness still existed when money wasn't involved." He paused and looked around. Most people didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a joke. The words hung heavy in the air. Greg looked down at his hands. A few others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Evan continued, "But one person did see me. She treated me with respect, not because of who I was, but because of who she is. That person is MIA. Mia felt her cheeks burn. She didn't know where to look. Everyone was staring at her now, but this time, not to laugh. Evan smiled kindly. Mia didn't hesitate to help me. She didn't care that people were laughing or that I couldn't pay. She showed me more humanity in 10 minutes than some people have shown me in years." A soft murmur went through the crowd. Some nodded quietly. Others couldn't meet his eyes. Evan then said, "For those who don't know, my name is Evan Cole. I run a few companies across the country, and I've worked with people from all walks of life. But this moment, this diner, reminded me that wealth means nothing without kindness." The manager stepped forward eagerly, trying to make up for his behavior. "Well, Mr. Cole, we're truly honored to have you here. You know, Mia is one of our best employees. We're proud of her. She's always been. Evan raised a hand politely, stopping him. I'm sure she is. But she didn't need a title or anyone's permission to do the right thing. Mia looked down, trying to hide her smile. Evan reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. I wanted to do something in return. Not because she asked, but because I believe good actions deserve recognition. He placed the envelope on the counter in front of Mia. Everyone stared. What's this? She asked, her voice trembling a little. He smiled. It's a thank you. And also, a beginning. She hesitated. I can't take this. Yes, you can, he said gently. It's just a small part of what you gave me back, faith in people. The manager tried to peek at the envelope, his curiosity obvious, but Evan ignored him. Before leaving, Evan turned to the crowd again. To everyone here, I'll say this. Don't judge a person by what they wear, what they drive, or what's in their pocket. Judge them by how they treat others when there's nothing to gain. No one said a word. The air in the diner felt heavy. Like everyone was seeing themselves clearly for the first time, Evan turned back to Mia. I'll be in touch soon. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. Something important. Mia nodded slowly, still trying to take in everything. Evan smiled once more and then walked out. The door closed behind him and his car disappeared down the road. As soon as he was gone, the diner burst into whispers. Did you hear what he said? One woman whispered. Do you think he'll really come back? Another asked. Greg looked miserable. Man, I can't believe we laughed at him, he muttered. Mr. Lewis was pacing behind the counter, mumbling to himself. If only I had known who he was. I could have. Mia interrupted softly. You could have just been kind. He looked at her, not knowing what to say. After her shift ended, Mia sat at the same booth by the window where she had sat days ago. She opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. The note read, Kindness doesn't go unnoticed. Meet me soon. There's something I want to build, and I think it should start with you. Below it was a check. More money than she had ever seen in her life. Her hands shook as she stared at it. She didn't know whether to cry or laugh. She had never done what she did for money. She had done it because it was the right thing. But now, somehow, life was rewarding her in a way she could never have expected. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sun broke through the clouds, shining through the diner windows. Mia smiled softly, thinking about the man who had walked into her life looking like he had nothing, turned out to have everything. She didn't know what something important meant, but she could feel it in her heart. Whatever it was going to change her life again. And this time, she wasn't afraid. A week passed since Evan's unexpected visit, but the memory of that moment still lived fresh in everyone's mind. The diner had never been this busy before. People from nearby towns came, just to see the place where the kind waitress and the undercover billionaire story had happened. The same customers who once laughed at Mia now greeted her like she was a celebrity. Hey Mia, you're famous now. One man joked as she refilled his coffee. She smiled politely, though it didn't feel as good as people thought. She hadn't helped Evan for attention or praise. She had done it because he looked like he needed kindness, and that was all. But now, the whispers, the smiles, and the stares made her uncomfortable. Some people wanted to take pictures with her. Others wanted to know if she was dating the billionaire. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. Mr. Lewis, the manager, was the happiest of them all. This is great for business, he said, grinning. You've put our diner on the map. Maybe I should put your picture on the wall. Mia laughed softly but shook her head. Please don't. I just want things to go back to normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. 3 days later, a black car pulled up outside the diner again. It was the same sleek car from before. Mia froze when she saw it through the window. A moment later, Evan walked in, dressed casually this time, jeans, a navy shirt, and that same calm smile that always made people stop talking. The entire diner went quiet again, just like the first time. But Evan ignored the attention and walked straight to the counter. Hey Mia, he said warmly. Do you have a break anytime soon? She wiped her hands nervously. Yeah. 10 minutes. Good, he said. Mind if I steal them? She laughed softly. Sure. They went outside and sat on a bench near the parking lot. The air was warm, and the smell of rain still lingered from the night before. For a few seconds, they sat in silence, watching cars pass. Finally, Evan said, I wanted to talk to you about something. Something important. Mia turned to him a little nervous. Okay, he took a deep breath. I've been thinking about what you did that day. You didn't know me. You had no reason to help me. Yet you did it anyway. That kind of kindness is rare, Mia, and I don't want it to stop there. She tilted her head, unsure what he meant. What do you mean? Evan looked at her seriously. I've started a new foundation, one that helps people who've lost their way, people who've fallen through the cracks of society. I want to give them another chance, but I need someone real to help run it. Someone who understands what it means to care about others. Mia blinked. Me. He nodded. Yes, you. She laughed nervously. Evan, I'm just a waitress. I don't know anything about running a foundation. It's exactly why you're perfect for it, he said. You see people, you don't look at their clothes or their wallets. You look at their hearts. That's what this foundation needs. I can hire people with degrees, but I can't buy empathy. Mia's hands fidgeted in her lap. I don't even know where to start. I'll help you, he said gently. You'll get training, a team, and everything you need. You won't be alone. I want you to be part of something bigger, something that makes the world better, the same way you made my day better when I needed it most. She could feel her heart pounding. The idea sounded unreal. She had never imagined a life outside this small diner. But what about my job here? She asked quietly. I can't just leave. Evan smiled. You can, if it means doing something that changes lives. Sometimes the right path isn't the one we planned. It's the one that finds us. She thought about her life, the endless shifts, the tired feet, the low pay, the rude customers. She had always told herself it was temporary, but she had never known what else to do. And now, someone was offering her a chance to do something meaningful. Still, she hesitated. What if I fail? Evan's smile widened. Then you'll learn. But I don't think you will. You've already done the hardest part. You cared when no one else did. She met his eyes. There was something honest and steady in the way he looked at her. He wasn't offering charity. He was offering trust. After a moment, Mia nodded slowly. Okay, she said softly. I'll do it. Evan grinned. Good. Welcome to the team. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a business card with her name on it, Mia Parker, Community Relations Coordinator. She stared at it, still in disbelief. Your training starts next week, he said. We'll begin in the city, but you'll come back here often. I want this town to be our first project. There are people here who need help, jobs, housing, support. I want you to lead it. Mia couldn't speak for a moment. Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know how to repay you. You already did, he said softly. You reminded me what matters. They sat quietly for a moment. For the first time in a long time, Mia felt like her life had meaning beyond just surviving day to day. When she went back inside, everyone was staring. Greg raised an eyebrow. What did the billionaire want this time? Mia smiled mysteriously. Just a conversation. The rest of the day went by in a blur. Her mind kept wandering to what Evan had said. A foundation. Helping people. Making a difference. The idea felt both scary and exciting. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept imagining what her new life might look like. No more coffee stains and rude customers. No more struggling to pay rent. She could actually help people, people like Evan had pretended to be. When the next week came, she packed her small suitcase and said goodbye to the diner. Mr. Lewis shook her hand awkwardly. You've done us proud, Mia, he said. And sorry for how I acted before. She smiled kindly. It's okay. As she walked out, she turned back for a moment, looking at the neon sign that had lit her nights for years. It wasn't just a diner anymore. It was where her life had changed forever. Evan was waiting for her outside. When she got in the car, he smiled. Ready? She took a deep breath and nodded. Ready? The drive to the city was quiet at first. Evan told her about his past, how he'd grown up poor, built his company from nothing, and lost touch with real people somewhere along the way. That's why I did that little test, he said with a small smile. I needed to remember what life feels like without money. Mia listened quietly. She realized that underneath the suits and the success, he was just another human being who had once struggled too. When they reached the office building, it looked huge in modern glass walls, tall lights, people walking fast with purpose. Mia felt small for a moment, but Evan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You belong here, he said. Don't forget that. The next few days were filled with training, meetings, and introductions. Mia learned about the Foundation's mission to help people get back on their feet, find jobs, and rebuild their lives. Every time she felt nervous, Evan was there, reminding her why she was chosen. By the end of the week, Mia wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was part of something that mattered. One evening, as she looked out the window of her new apartment, she thought about how everything had started with a single cup of coffee and one simple act of kindness. And for the first time in a long time, she whispered to herself, maybe good things really do come back. Months had passed since Mia agreed to join Evan's foundation, and her life had changed in ways she could never have imagined. The small-town diner where it all began now felt like a memory from another life. Though she visited occasionally to check on things and see familiar faces, she had left behind long shifts, rude customers, and the constant worry about bills. Now her days were filled with meetings, planning community projects, and meeting people who needed help. At first, the change had been overwhelming. The city was loud, fast, and full of people who spoke in business terms she had never heard. But Evan had been patient, guiding her through every step. He reminded her often that she didn't need fancy degrees to understand people's problems. She already had the most important skill: empathy. Her first project was small, helping a neighborhood near her town rebuild after a flood. She met families who had lost their homes, elderly people struggling to get groceries, and young people who had nowhere to go after school. At first she felt unsure. How could she really make a difference? But every time she offered help, gave someone a job lead, or even just listened to someone's story, she felt a new confidence growing inside her. The foundation started to gain recognition. Evan's name brought attention, of course, but Mia's work and dedication drew admiration too. People began to see her not just as the kind waitress who had once helped a mysterious man, but as a woman who could change lives. One afternoon, she returned to the diner for a quick visit. The neon sign flickered. The smell of coffee and fried eggs was familiar, and for a moment it all felt like old times. The manager, Mr. Lewis, waved awkwardly from behind the counter. Mia. It's good to see you, he said, trying not to sound too awkward. Mia smiled warmly. It's good to see you too. Greg and his friends were there, eating lunch. Their faces turned red when they recognized her. They didn't say anything at first. Finally, Greg cleared his throat. We're proud of you, Mia. Really, you were right. You were always right. Mia laughed softly, shaking her head. It's okay. Don't worry about it. The diner had changed too. The news of Mia's work with the foundation had spread, and now the locals treated the place with more respect. Business had improved, and people often came in hoping to meet her when she visited. After lunch, Mia returned to the city, and to the office she now considered her second home. The foundation had grown beyond what she had imagined. There were programs for education, job training, housing assistance, and mental health support. Every day, she worked with people who needed her guidance, her patience, her understanding. Evan visited often, though he never interfered with her work. He treated her as a partner, not an employee. One evening, they were reviewing new projects for the next month when he paused and looked at her. You've changed so many lives, Mia, he said quietly. I don't think I could have done this without you. She smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. I just wanted to help people. I never imagined it would grow like this. That's the thing, he said. Sometimes the smallest acts lead to the biggest changes. Look at you. You started with one small act of kindness. and now you're helping hundreds of people every month." Mia thought about the day she had served him coffee in the diner, the way he had smiled and said her kindness meant something. She never could have imagined it would lead here a life full of purpose, hope, and meaning. Months turned into a year. The foundation continued to grow, reaching towns beyond their own. Mia had trained new staff, organized events, and created programs that gave people a fresh start. She had built a life she was proud of. And each evening, she often thought back to the diner, remembering the moment that changed everything one evening. The foundation hosted a charity dinner to celebrate their first year of success. The room was filled with donors, volunteers, and families who had been helped. Mia walked up to the stage, nervous but excited. She looked at the audience and saw people smiling, grateful, and hopeful. Evan stepped beside her. "Would you like to say a few words?" he asked. She nodded. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. "A year ago, I never imagined I would be standing here. I was just a waitress in a small-town diner. I thought my life would always be ordinary. But one day, something happened that changed everything. Something small. Something simple. Someone showed me kindness, and I decided to pass it on." The audience listened quietly. Hanging on her words, she continued, "This foundation exists because of the power of small acts. Because one moment of empathy, one choice to help someone without expecting anything in return, can grow into something extraordinary. And I've learned that kindness is contagious. It spreads faster than we imagine." The room erupted in applause. Mia felt tears prick at her eyes. She glanced at Evan, who smiled warmly. He had never needed the recognition. But he stood proudly beside her, as if to say, "This is the result of what we started together." Later that night, as the event ended, Mia stepped outside and looked at the quiet streets of the city. The night air was cool, and she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She thought about all the people who had laughed at her, all the doubts and hardships she had faced. It didn't matter anymore. She had proven, first to herself and then to the world, that one act of kindness could spark change. Back in her hometown, the diner had hung a small plaque on the wall. "Be kind. You never know whose life you might change." People who visited often asked about the story, and Mia's name became synonymous with hope and empathy. Over the following months, Evan and Mia continued their work. They traveled to small towns, visiting communities in need, building programs, and inspiring people to care for each other. The bond between them grew stronger, built on respect, trust, and shared purpose. They laughed together, worked together, and celebrated each success quietly, knowing that the real reward was the lives they touched. One evening, Mia returned to the diner once more. The place felt the same, yet different. She walked in and saw familiar faces smiling at her. She remembered the day she had first served Evan coffee, the laughter of those who mocked him, and how a small choice had set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. She smiled softly and whispered to herself, "It all started with one cup of coffee, one act of kindness, and one decision to do what was right." Sitting down at her old booth, she looked out the window at the small town that had shaped her. The neon sign flickered above, reminding her of where it all began. Her life was no longer ordinary. She had found purpose, respect, and fulfillment. She had proven that kindness was not weakness, but strength, the kind of strength that could change lives, communities, and even the world. And as she sat there, watching the sunset glow over the streets she had once walked every day, Mia felt a deep sense of peace. She had begun as a simple waitress, and now she was a force for hope and goodness. The journey had been long, the challenges many, but every moment had led to this, a life full of meaning, compassion, and the knowledge that one small act can truly change everything. Her story became a legend in her town and beyond. People remembered the shy waitress who had once quietly helped a man no one else noticed. They remembered her courage, her humility, and her heart. And above all, they remembered the lesson she had lived every day. Kindness costs nothing, but its value is limitless. Mia looked at the diner one last time before leaving for the evening. She knew her journey wasn't over, but she also knew she was exactly where she was meant to be, doing good, inspiring others, and proving that even the smallest act of humanity can create the biggest change. And with that thought, she smiled, knowing that the world she had touched was a better place. One life at a time.